Okay, so today I want to talk about graphics cards because AMD just announced their brand new graphics card, and there's a lot to discuss with that because it's it's important. It's very, very important that AMD has done this uh, because it's going to change a little bit of some pictures that are coming up. Some ideas, some builds, and they've included some new ideas and concepts that are going to change the way that we think about how or when you should buy a graphics card. Now, there's definitely some discussion that probably people are going to have about, is NVIDIA better, is AMD better, and we're going to go look at some charts here in a second. I'll pop some charts up in here and we'll take a look at them and we'll discuss them. But one of the big things that is now on the minds of a lot of people is it possible to have a complete AMD system that is fully competitive? Uh, and that's not happened in like a decade, probably a decade at least. So that's important. That's extremely important for us to consider. Um, so today, AMD announced their new Radeon 6000 series graphics cards, following their new architecture of, I think it's RDNA. Let's see if I can find it here very quickly. Yeah, the RDNA 2 architecture. So previous generations, the 5000 series was on 1, and we just moved to 2. And we're going to look at some of the reasons why that's so important. So let's go back. Yeah, just looking at the order. Trying to find if they show. Yeah, we can kind of look at this one here really quickly. So AMD has introduced 3 new cards: a 6800, a 6800 XT, and a 6900 XT. The 6800 XT, their lowest card, is, they compared this directly to the 2080 Ti of NVIDIA's last generation. And in comparison, uh, when we look up the charts, let's see if I can pull that card up here really quickly. 6800s. Let's see if they actually have the charts they were using before. No, they might not have it. Of course, I had the charts that they were showing during their graphics display because it was really kind of interesting. So it's like maybe 2-3% better, maybe 5% better than the 2080 Ti on majority of items. But why is that so important? Because NVIDIA announced their 3070, and their 3070 is coming out for purchase here soon. Soon as in tomorrow morning, you'll be able to buy this $500 card from NVIDIA that they're touting as the replacement to the 2080 Ti for capabilities. So the 2080 Ti was the flagship. Now they're saying, hey, our smallest card is going to do the exact same capabilities as what the 2080 used to do at $500. And here's AMD saying, hey, we have a card that is in the same category, but we're not saying it does the exact same performance. We're saying it does a little bit better for right about the same price. So that's pretty big. That's a big, that's important note to take away from this. Their other big one. Let's go pull. Let's go look at this one. So when we look at these 3 cards, they're just upgraded versions. They have some really cool features they added into the way the chips are laying out in there and how many transistors they put onto their 7 nanometer architecture, but they're staying pretty much in that 16 gig format with the GDR6, which is the exact same thing as what the 5000 series does. And if I'm trying to find that, there's a very specific thing I'm looking for here, and that's power utilization. These units, AMD were able to increase their capabilities of their graphics cards without increasing their power draw. NVIDIA did not do that. So you can keep the same power supply that you've been using. You can stay on that 750 watt power supply to get their biggest and baddest card. Their 6900 XT, which is very much being compared directly to NVIDIA's 3090, which is now the high card for NVIDIA. And there's no need to upgrade the power supply. And capabilities are looking pretty close to each other for a card that's $400 cheaper. So the 6900 would be $999, I think is what the retail price is going to be. So for $400 to $500 cheaper, you're going to get a card that doesn't require you to change out your power supply. It's already compatible with everything that's going to be in your system, and gives you almost the exact same capabilities as what your 3090 does. Now, the 3090 will still potentially do better in the long run, because 3090 is definitely going towards graphic artists. Let's see if we can find. So GPU memory. And they did not do a good job of showing off the pictures of these cards. Let's see if we can get some visuals. Okay. And here's another big thing that I'm not sure if everyone knows. Ray tracing is not something that belongs to NVIDIA. It's actually a technology of just increasing the amount of math per second the graphics card is doing. And when you do that, you're able to get more vibrant colors. And this is the way it always worked. A graphics card is just processing numbers. It does the exact same thing that a CPU does. The big difference here is that it is focusing on graphics. But now we can put out ray trace on an AMD card, which means you're having comparable cards directly to the NVIDIA, and NVIDIA was selling them as, hey, we are the ray tracing people. But Microsoft has backed this platform that AMD has created here. This exact same chipset that is being put out in these cards is the chipset Microsoft is using for the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, and the exact same graphics card that's going to be in the PlayStation 5. This is just the desktop version of that. So that's kind of interesting. So probably most people are probably going to end up going for this 6800 XT. Is probably going to meet what most people want to do. And this is very much being compared directly to NVIDIA's 3080 graphics card. Let's go take a look at that. So there's a picture of the 3080. Let's see if we can go see their design capabilities. Yeah, there we go. So NVIDIA did a lot of work, a lot of work, and they created this really interesting dynamic of airflow, where air is being sucked up from below, and it's either going up towards the CPU area, just a little bit hotter air moving towards the CPU, and then those set of cooling is blowing it out through the side or top. But it also has this capability of one side being able to pull air up directly into this, and then straight out the back. So a lot of NVIDIA's pricing has gone towards this new airflow capabilities. And this card, let me see it off of this card. Just go look at the gallery here. This card has something extremely aggravating about it, and it is going to see if I can get a little bit better picture of it. No, but you can see it right there on the bottom is this power connector. So NVIDIA went to a different power connector, which means every single power supply that's out there will have to have a specialized adapter or brand new power cables to attach to the graphics card. And instead of being on the side, the edge, like it used to be, now it's almost smack dab in the middle. So uh, artistically, the right, what do I want to say here? Uh, no, it's not visually, it's not going to be as appealing. Uh, and half of building your own system nowadays is the visual appearance. You're aiming to show it off. You want your systems, especially if you're building systems for somebody else, there's a look that comes with it. But the new NVIDIA graphics cards are going to have a weird cable dangling out the front of it, where before we could put it to the side or potentially pull it around back. But no, not anymore. Let's go look at some. Let's look at 6800 XT. Do we have a picture of it? We can see the teardown. So here's a side view of the 6800, their new chip platform, which is really just the same chip. This a whole bunch more, transistors sitting on there, and it's still sitting in that same format that you were seeing in graphics cards. So we're not changing the footprint. You can look at our 6900 XT here. It's still keeping that same footprint that we're used to seeing with graphics cards. Now if we go back and take a look at NVIDIA for a second. Let's go look at a gallery view of this thing. I wish they had this thing sitting side by side to something. This is 12.5 inches long. So it is big. There we go. So it takes up 3 slots versus 2. It's 12.3 inches long by 5.4. Most regular graphics cards are maybe 10 inches. So this is adding 2 to 4 inches to your graphics card, just moving from the 2080 Ti to the 3080 Ti. So it means a lot of systems out there can't fit this card for the 3090. Won't even fit in their systems. But AMD is going to be releasing a card that fits into majority of everybody's systems that already have the capability of it, have the same capabilities of it, doesn't need a power supply upgrade because they didn't increase the power usage. They increased the capabilities of the current chip set. So AMD is all of a sudden looking a lot more attractive for people who are in the process of doing builds. Here's the other kicker with all this. If you run an AMD CPU with an AMD graphics card, you can run a special feature called Rage, which will allow the CPU and the graphics card to work in unison to go quicker. Which means there comes an added benefit of doing an all AMD system. And so graphics cards don't really need PCI 4. This PCI does not really affect the graphics card world that much, but it affects all the underlying things with it. But now, all those underlying things, in company with the special mode that's coming with the graphics card, and the fact that you're running an all AMD system, all these things are built upon each other. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a very, very competitive AMD system that realistically, from a price standpoint, is going to cost you maybe a little bit cheaper than an Intel and have just as much quality as what you were buying beforehand. So, should you go off and rush and buy AMD graphics cards or their new CPUs that are coming out, or NVIDIA? Hell no. Don't even try right now. It is probably one of the worst decisions you could be making right now with trying to purchase either the AMD's new chipsets or the new graphics card, or try to get an Intel graphics card, um, because the buying process for it is broken. Uh, Going out there and trying to purchase any of this right now is probably not going to work. The supply chains on both sides of this thing are they're broken. Nvidia had to completely shut down their store, so you cannot buy a 3080, 3090, or the upcoming 3070 tomorrow off the Nvidia website. They disabled that functionality. They are sending all purchases to Best Buy. So if you want to purchase a card from Nvidia, a Founders Edition, you have to actually go to Best Buy and purchase it there, uh, because of supply chains and bots have made it nearly impossible to buy this technology. And when these release, which November something or another for both the CPU and the graphics card for AMD, the same thing is going to happen. Now, there is a lot of speculation that probably AMD is going to have a much better, uh, a, a lot more product to sell than Nvidia did. Uh, there's a lot of speculation that Nvidia uh, pushed their graphics card out there to get it out on the market so that they can start generating hype for Nvidia, because they knew AMD was about to do the same thing, and they only produced a couple thousand cards worldwide. So that has made acquiring a Nvidia graphics card nearly impossible. Uh, and basically, you're having scalpers who have created bots, um, and those bots are going on there and they're connecting to the websites. And as soon as the product is available in the database, the bot is already clicked and going through the sellout process and checked out. Uh, and this is happening on a global scale from every seller that's out there. And then Nvidia themselves are only supplying maybe a couple hundred cards per distributor. So Best Buy, here's your 100 cards, distribute that 100 cards across the nation. Micro centers, which isn't a thing, it's only a thing in certain areas of the country. They only got a couple hundred cards across the entire country. Um, and you start doing the math there, so maybe that's okay. Maybe Seattle, Washington got 2 cards for all the Best Buys. Maybe New York City got 4 cards in a Best Buy. Uh, and then you start looking at the aftermarkets. Well, if Nvidia can't produce the chip enough to be able to make their manufacturers, how are they going to meet the requirements of the other ones? So maybe they're giving 50% out to the third parties. So there's a lot of third parties, and maybe they're only getting 2 or 3 chips per batch. Basically, the long story short is, from the Nvidia side, you're not going to see mass availability. Now, can you get lucky? Yeah, you can always get lucky. uh, Luck plays a factor in everything, and anybody who says luck isn't a thing, yeah, there's a big thing with luck. You can be lucky. You can seriously be lucky and be perfectly fine. Um, but just because the cards are out there and you hear of somebody being lucky doesn't mean you're gonna get one. And quite honestly, it's better just to wait. Um, Wait a couple months. Within 6 months, the supply chains will stabilize, and probably by March or April of this next year, you'll be able to go to any one of those stores and buy a Nvidia or an AMD graphics card. Um, Trying to get one in November because you want one for Christmas is just not going to happen realistically. And that has nothing to do with AMD or Nvidia. It's just the stock, and the want. There's so much want with this. There's so many people out there, and then you have people who are scalping these products on eBay. let's go take a look at eBay and see if we can find ourselves a 3080. Because the prices are ridiculous. I was obviously now that I'm trying to find one that I can showcase. So here's a good example. A brand new MSI 3080 Gaming X Trio is being sold for $1,400. This card should be sold for $700. So this is almost 100% markup. And I like how I have 100% feedback. Yeah, I believe he probably is selling this card. A P&Y 3080 going for about $750. Again, almost 100% markup on the card. And Isu's tough, going for almost 2,000. And more than likely, this person doesn't even actually have the card, since he's not even actually showcasing that on there. Don't ever buy a graphics card from eBay right after a launch. It is not worth it. Here we go. This sells for $699 from NVIDIA / Best Buy at this current time, selling it for $1,600. Don't buy from. Don't buy these cards that are sitting on there. This is not worth it. You are paying scammers. And that is kind of the general consensus in the technical community. And if you have $1,600 to waste, that $1,600 can wait until the cards become general available, until you're able to buy it through Best Buy or through Amazon, or be able to walk into a Walmart in March or April. That same amount of money, and you'll be able to buy that at the price that it's actually meant to be sold at. And that's really something that has to be remembered there. Just don't purchase it, and be very wary of finding deals out there, not just on eBay, but if you look at like Facebook Marketplace or there's a half dozen or more. Be very wary of it right now. Place so you have several years ago. Uh, Several years ago, I think the PlayStation 3. This happened where people were buying brand new PlayStations at outlets for Christmas because it had just come out. It just got released. They go to Best Buy, GameStop, wherever. Like, oh my God, there it is. They grab it, they take it home, they wrap it up for Christmas. They open it up and it was a box of rocks. That happened. This isn't stories like unbelievable stories. That happened, and there's simple ways to rewrap packaging. That cellophane wrapper that you find on products when you go to like Best Buy, GameStop, and the rest of that is extremely easy to fake. GameStop has a machine that they can use to rewrap discs. And if you talk to Best Buy employees in the past, not Best Buy, GameStop employees in the past, you could go, employees be able to take games home that first week that they came out, and then they just bring them home and return them. And then somebody would come in and buy a brand new game. Guess what? Bam. It's just getting worse now. Because now you're seeing bots go out there, purchase 95% of the stock. Maybe 5% of actual people were able to get one, and maybe some of those 5% were using their own bots to do so. People buy 20 versions of the card, and then they turn around on eBay, sell it for $1,600 when it's a $600 card, make $1,000. When the 3080s were starting to go on sale, you could go on eBay the same day that they got released, and you were seeing people driving up the cost. So it was like $40,000 for a 3080, because people were so angry about what was going on, and they wanted to troll the scammers. That same thing is going to happen when AMD releases their stuff in November, uh, because there isn't a great way to ensure that every single outlet is going to do the right thing. There is no way out there to guarantee that uh, uh, someone's not going to break AMD's. AMD doesn't do a lot of selling directly from their website, but I bet they will. Um, AMD is probably going to have a lot of the same issues. And if bots can't directly do it, it's very likely that they're going to get DDoSed, and potentially everyone's just going to be, the sites are just going to be taken down. There's a lot of what ifs. So go back to what I was saying there. Just wait. I promise you, you'll still get the same graphics card. You'll still have that top of the line in 6 months. Having the top of the line today uh, versus top of the line 6 months from now, it's really not going to change the quality of life or the quality of the computer that you have. To buy one of these $2,000 version cards, $2,000 aftermarket or eBay or wherever, that $1,000 that you spent there, you could have spent towards a better CPU, uh, better RAM, better hard drives, uh, a better case. So it's better to wait, get the cost, get the price of the card for what it's actually worth, and and spend it accordingly. You'll have a better system in the long run. Yeah. Is it time to move to AMD? Um, maybe not. Is AMD better than Nvidia? Is Nvidia better than AMD? Me. Maybe depends on what side of that coin. But to be quite honest with you, it doesn't matter. We're at that point in 2020 where the underdog the underdog's not the underdog anymore. The underdog is throwing punches in, or it's in that fight. They're not losing. AMD is toe for toe with Nvidia and Intel right now. And anyone out there who is saying otherwise is probably not paying attention, or they are a massive fanboy to either one of them. So quite honestly, we're at a point in time where it really doesn't matter. The only person who's going to actually benefit from any of this is the consumer. Because when you have two technical companies who are making good products and one of them takes a step above, whoever just lost that footing is going to work twice as hard to gain it back. And all that ends up happening is technology keeps progressing upwards and the consumers get better products. When there is no competing manufacturer, developer, or whatever, you get Apple. You get Apple, where Apple develops the exact same product every single year. They sell the exact same phone every single year, and they make $1 billion. It's not advancing. They always have a cool new feature that was either in another phone from another company, or a brand new feature that they're going to introduce and it's going to be in every other phone out there within a couple months. Um, that's what happens when you have a company that feels like it doesn't have any competition. Is you get the same product. Um, I'm not necessarily against Apple, and I know this is a little bit different than talking about graphics cards, but it talks into the business side of things really quickly. Um, but there's some honest questions there that need to be made. Is like, is Apple's business practices 100% 100% benefiting the customer? Things that you should look at is Epic versus Apple. That's a Google term. Go look it up. Uh, Go spend 10 minutes and figuring and learning about a massive developer fight between Epic and Apple that is probably going to change the landscape of every single development engine in the world, and whether or not a host platform can charge money to do something, or charge kind of a housing fee type of thing. And whether or not you like Epic, whether or not you like Apple, and you don't, doesn't matter which side of the coin you're on, that's going to affect how we deal with things. Uh, yeah, yeah. So, am I looking for a card? Uh, yes. I'll be honest with this group. I'm telling everyone else to kind of not look for a card. I am actively looking for a card. I am actively looking for both either 3080 or 3090, and I'm going to be looking for if I a 68 or 6900 XT. Uh, I am trying to get one or if not both uh, for this purposes here, so I can talk about them. Uh, the it's hard to get a card right now and to be able to show and talk about what it's really capable of. So you have to rely on other people to talk about them right now. And there's some really good ones. Jay's 2 cents. He has a lot of good videos on it. Linus Tech Tips. He has some good videos on it. Uh, and yes, I'm actively looking for one because I would like to be able to kind of sit there and talk and show off what one is, what one's capable of doing, and why we buy something, uh, because it is very very important. Yeah. Alrighty. I think that's it for my ranting about graphics cards tonight. Next week, I'm going to talk about cases, and that'll put us into November. Uh, Coming soon, not next week, but the week after that, I'm actually going to be doing a little bit different of a stream for us, and I'm going to do a painting stream. Uh, so I have all the paint that I need available, and we'll pull after I show off the case and talk about why that case is that case. We'll pull the paneling off the week after that, and we're actually going to paint it. I got the paint purchased. I got the color schemes, and I'll do a dry run with some sheet metal that I have. So 2 weeks, Ryan's going to paint, and Ryan's not a painter. I think I can do some gradient colors. I think I'm capable of that. So, all right, everybody, have a good night, and I look forward to seeing you next week.